King Eurystheus of Mycenae, tormented by growing envy and deep frustration, watched in despair as Hercules' unstoppable rise continued. Each labor, originally conceived to be an insurmountable trial, only served to further polish the hero's glory, making him more beloved and celebrated with each success. Desperate to tarnish the son of Zeus's reputation, and perhaps even end his life, Uristheus devised a new and infamous challenge. Thus, the king imposed on Hercules a labor he believed would be the ultimate humiliation, a task so degrading and vile it would be unworthy even of the lowliest mortal, let alone a demigod with Zeus's blood in his veins. The hero was to clean, in a single day, the legendary stables of King Augeas, located in the kingdom of Elis. These were no ordinary stables. They were an absolute abomination, a monument to utter negligence. For decades, the dung of thousands of cattle had piled up, forming mountains of foul waste that stretched across vast areas, spreading a stench that fouled the entire region. The task seemed not only impossible, but utterly repulsive. Uristheus, in his pettiness, believed that beyond the difficulty of the task, Hercules, driven by his divine pride, would flatly refuse to perform such a degrading job. He hoped the hero's refusal would lead to his downfall. Contrary to the tyrant's expectations, the hero, with a humility that contrasted sharply with his colossal strength, bowed to his king's will and immediately set out for the kingdom of Augeas. To Hercules, the need to purify himself of his past sins, imposed upon him by Hera's madness, was far more important than any personal pride or superficial dignity stemming from his divine lineage. Upon arriving in Elis, Hercules presented himself before King Augeas, a man known for his immense wealth and vast herds, and offered his services to clean the stables. Cunningly, he omitted the fact that he was there at King Eurystheus's command, keeping the true purpose of his work a secret. The son of Zeus, ever shrewd, negotiated payment for the job. Augeas, thinking Hercules underestimated the magnitude of the task, believed he was getting an excellent deal. The king, convinced that cleaning the stables in a single day was absolutely impossible, promised to give the hero a tenth of his immense herd as a reward. He was certain Hercules would fail, and therefore receive nothing. As a formality, the king called upon his own son, Phyleus, to witness the agreement, sealing the promise with a solemn oath. A shovel was handed to Hercules, an ironic symbol of the manual labor expected of him. But the hero, with a glint of cunning in his eye, set it aside. He would not rely on brute strength in the conventional way for this task. Instead, he headed straight for the nearby Alpheus and Peneus rivers. Using his extraordinary strength, Hercules began hurling massive rocks and digging deep channels in the earth, diverting the course of the rivers. With surprising ingenuity, he redirected the powerful currents of water toward Augeas' stables. The surging waters, now transformed into purifying torrents, burst through the stable's gates with overwhelming force, sweeping away decades of accumulated filth. In just a few hours, the power of nature, guided by Hercules' intelligence, accomplished what had seemed impossible, leaving the stables impeccably clean. After the miraculous cleanup, Hercules, with the same mastery, allowed the rivers to return to their natural courses, restoring the landscape. King Augeas, upon seeing his stables sparkling clean, and realizing that Hercules hadn't even dirtied his hands, was completely dumbfounded, unable to comprehend the magnitude of the feat. When Hercules demanded his rightful payment, the king, overcome by greed and ashamed at being outdone, cynically declared that he had never made such a promise. However, Phyleus, his own son, a man of honor, stepped in and confirmed the agreement he had witnessed. Enraged by such betrayal and public humiliation, King Augeas, in a fit of fury, banished both Hercules and his own son, Phyleus, from the kingdom. But Hercules, the hero who had endured humiliation in pursuit of purification, would not accept such an affront to his honor and to justice. He gathered an army of loyal Theban allies and returned to Elis. In a swift and decisive campaign, Hercules dethroned King Augeas, who had broken his word, and placed the honorable Prince Phyleus on his father's throne, restoring justice and order. And so, another labor was completed, proving that intelligence and justice were just as powerful as brute strength. After cleaning the stables of Augeas, Hercules was assigned a new and terrifying labor: to go to Arcadia and rid the region of the Stymphalian Birds, giant, monstrous raptors that terrorize the lands around Lake Stymphalius. After a long and exhausting journey, the hero finally reached the lake's edge. To his shock and concern, the number of birds was overwhelming, darkening the sky and trees like a massive cloud of danger. These dreadful birds had iron beaks and feathers capable of piercing armor and tearing victims apart. They attacked their prey not only with talons and beaks, but also by launching their razor-sharp metal feathers like darts, spreading destruction and panic wherever they flew. It seemed impossible to face such a threat through brute strength alone. The sheer number and nature of the birds made a direct assault ineffective. So Hercules realized he would need to solve this challenge through cunning and intelligence. At this crucial moment, help came from his sister, Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategy. She understood the need for a different approach and offered divine intervention. The goddess gifted Hercules a musical instrument of iron, a pair of crotala, clappers, crafted by the god Hephaestus in his sacred forge. Using these divine clappers, Hercules climbed a mountain near the lake and struck them with all his might, creating a deafening noise, a metallic clamoring that echoed throughout the valley. The sound was so loud and disorienting that the birds, terrified and confused, took off in a massive panic. As the birds scattered through the sky, Hercules seized the opportunity. With his bow and arrows, whose tips had been dipped in the deadly venom of the Hydra's blood, he shot down several of the creatures mid-flight, ensuring the threat was significantly reduced. Another labor had been completed, and now the hero set course for the island of Crete, where King Eurystheus had ordered Hercules to capture and tame the fearsome Cretan Bull. This was no ordinary bull. It was a creature of unparalleled beauty and majesty, sent by Poseidon to King Minos to be sacrificed in the god's honor. However, due to the bull's exceptional qualities, Minos, in an act of disrespect, chose not to sacrifice it and kept it for himself. As punishment for this slight, Poseidon, the god of the seas, made the bull go mad with uncontrollable rage, turning it into a wild and destructive beast that terrorized the land. The fearless hero would soon come face to face with this mighty bull, who was also the father of the fearsome Minotaur, the mythical creature that dwelled within the labyrinth of Crete. The bull was incredibly strong, with powerful muscles and sharp horns, and engaged the hero in a titanic struggle. The ground trembled beneath their hooves as they fought, each testing the other's limits. But the bovine beast, for all its rage and power, wasn't strong enough to overcome the son of Zeus. Hercules, with his legendary strength and flawless technique, grabbed it by the horns and, with monumental effort, threw it to the ground, subduing it. After tying the creature securely, Hercules placed the bull on a ship bound for the Peloponnese, a long and dangerous journey with the beast on board. Upon arriving in Mycenae, the bull was presented to Uristheus, who, after confirming the task had been completed, ordered the animal released, fearing to keep such a beast in his kingdom. Now free, the bull would roam the lands of Greece, spreading terror wherever it went, an untamed force of nature. But it was on the plains of Marathon that it would meet its next formidable opponent. His name was Theseus, and destiny had another legendary encounter in store for the creature.